Konnichiwa, and welcome to the 39th podcast of the NC Rowan County Anime Group. My name is Robert Clown. I am the co-president of this club. I am filming this podcast, believe it or not, at 1:25 on June 23rd. Now you're wondering, in the morning, and you're going like, well, why is he doing this podcast so early? I was in bed asleep just a moment ago, and my neighbors decided to celebrate the 4th of July early this morning and woke me up, and now I can't go back to sleep until the medicine kicks in and I can finally fall back to sleep. Okay, and my neighbors, I'm a little bit upset with them about that and waking me up. So I figured I'd go ahead and do this podcast, and I do have some ideas that I wanted to finally get recorded, and so right now would be a good time to go. Today I'm going to try to talk to you about Sakura Wars, the OVA. Now, we're not going to cover the TV series because the TV series is a self-contained story. And so what I'm going to do is give you a timeline from the OVA and the movies and hopefully make some sense out of this. So let's first start off with this. We're going to start with the first Sakura Wars OVA. This starts at the beginning of the Demon Wars, and this has about 4 episodes in it, and this is, like I said, part of the first beginning of the Demon Wars. Now, the writer went and jumped rope, and he went and then did his second Sakura Wars series and called it Return of the Warrior. Now, inside this DVD, there are special features from the video game, because the way I understood it and the way a friend explained it to me, if you played the video game Sakura Tyson, which is what Sakura Wars is, you would understand how they won the Demon War, and there is extras in the extra section that gives you a rough idea of what the story was about. But again, like I said, they didn't do any story on the Demon Wars, and all you got is the extras, and they try to tell a little bit of the story using the computer game as graphics as part of the explanation of what happened during the Demon Wars. And also too, this second volume right here is also too part of the second OVA, because they only did like 4 episodes for that second OVA, and the stories themselves, they're beautiful. The animation's nice, the singing's okay, and they're nice little self-contained stories. Now, a character leads at the end of this OVA, and he appears in this series. This is actually, you can check this out at the Rowan Public Library, and this is Sakura Tyson de France, which you get to introduce new characters from the French fighting combat troupe. The character returns and to one of my favorite movies of all times as far as the Sakura Wars series, Sakura Wars the movie, and this is a nice, beautiful, self-contained story. We played it, like I said, at Con Carolinas. It was the first anime that we ever showed, and also too, the animation is done by Production IG. The director was actually the guy who worked on the famous Outlaw Star. Now, at the end of this goes into a next one called Sakura Tyson Sumire, and this is where it finally ends as far as the OVAs and the movies. It ends right there. Now, that's what's been brought over here to the United States. There is a Sakura Tyson, the New York Fighting Combat Troupe, and yes, I have seen it online, and I have seen it fan subbed, but it has not yet been picked up and brought over here to the United States. Don't know when it's going to ever be brought over here to the United States. Would love to see it brought over here to the United States, because then I can put it in with this collection. And like I said, Sakura Wars, it jumps rope pretty badly. I was always wanting the writer to go back and fill in the gaps, as it were. Like, believe it or not, when he did this OVA with the French fighting combat troop, he didn't complete the story. He only did like four episodes, and you're going like, oh great. But you know, if you went to the movie, what happened during this and this? There's a break here, and there's a break, you know, like I said at the very beginning from the first Sakura Wars OVA to the second round right here. So he left a lot of things, I mean, totally left open, and so that's kind of a bit sad. And there is no really, between Sakura Wars Sumire and that movie, there's no there can even be a gap right here that he could have wrote in there, but didn't do it. So that's a bit of the problem with the Sakura Wars, the movies and OVAs. There are gaps in between, and he really needs to go in and fill in these gaps, so that at least, you know, you get a more better understanding of the story. Not to say that I didn't like the animation, and I'm glad that I have the OVAs and the movies, but there are, you know, like I said, you jump rope into this story, and then you jump rope again into that story, and it's loosely, you know, pieced together, as I would say. Now, for a little bit of non-anime, today I'm going to talk about music. Now, to me, I love Japanese J-pop, and to me, it's virgin territory. I'm still learning about it and still trying to find out things about Japanese J-pop. But before I got started in the Japanese J-pop, I did listen to other forms of music. And if you notice on this shirt here, this is a drawing of, and I did the artwork on this shirt, of Kate Bush. And I've been a fan of Kate Bush for a few years now. I've listened to her music. I like some of her albums. The very first one she ever did was called The Kick Inside, and I liked it very much. I like her second album, Lionheart, but for some reason I can't seem to find my DVD right offhand. This is another beautiful illustration of the Kick Inside. I found this in a used shelf for about $2. And of course Kate did this one. This is probably her third album, Never Forever. And then there is, of course, The Essential World, which is very interesting. Her music was in development during that time, but I do enjoy Lionheart, which is her Lionheart album. Also, there were some wonderful songs in that. There's even a tribute at the end of the Lionheart album to Hammer Films, and she does a song called Hammer Horror. If you ever go to my channel, I actually have a link in my favorites for actually performing Hammer Horror. Well, I hope that you're doing well today. For the entire month of June, we do have a display up at the Rowan Public Library. July 17th, we should be having a meeting in front of the Books A Million at 5 o'clock. At 5:30, we'll go over to a person's home to watch the great teacher Onizuka. The 24th, FYE, 2 o'clock. They're going to have a special anime day. And I hope that you can go up and make that and have a great time. If you don't see me there, well, c'est la vie. The last weekend of June, they're going to have a cultural festival, Japanese, and called Oyabaku. And also, too, in August, there is Carolina Comic Con in Charlotte, North Carolina. Well, this is Robert Clown, wanting to wish you a very nice day. Goodbye.